Trading card game players, that is time, +3. Trading card game players, that is time, +3.
Box to the I can put box.
Hey guys. Hey, can you hear me? Alright, so we got Gengar Boy, I'm back. And let's see, here we got on the screen, bottom screen Kyle and top screen Alicia. We got a Crobat and a Kangas and Groudon. Double Groudons on both sides. And then we see a Heatran too. Wow. Let's see. What just happened? Okay, so Groudon used looks like Groudon used Earthquake. Sorry guys, I'm just coming back in. Okay, so Yveltal hits the field. Yveltal's a really interesting mon. Not a lot of people have picked up on it, but I do see it a little bit in practice on Showdown. It's got a really interesting ability. Dark Aura makes all Dark-type Pokemon on the field, not just powers up yourself, but can power up your opponents. Dark-type moves by 1.3 times damage. As we see the Groudon protect here. Probably because he doesn't want to get outsped by the opposing Groudon, and looks like Alicia's Crobat uses Tailwind. Xerneas, wow, with the, I believe, the Oblivion Wing. So that's going to finish off the Crobat and regain a little bit of health back. Yes, but Alicia looks like she got the advantage by getting the Tailwind up. So now her Groudon on the field is going to be faster. Yveltal's pretty cool. It pretty much walls physical type Groudons. I wasn't able to see, but I did see an Earthquake from one of the two Groudons on the field as Kangaskhan hits the field. Kangaskhan's going to put a lot of pressure. Kangaskhan, Groudon, probably the two best Mons in the metagame right now. And Alicia has the Tailwind up, so both of her Mons are going to be faster. Kyle's going to have to watch out. He doesn't have like too many options. Maybe if Alicia has a Press Spice Blades that misses, I'm pretty sure it used Earthquake before. I couldn't see in time. Yveltal could be. We did see Oblivion Wing from Yveltal, but if it does have maybe let's say Foul Play, which is another Dark type move that does damage based on your opponent's attack. That's going to do a lot of damage to Kangaskhan and Groudon. That could potentially knock out that Groudon right there, if it is physical. And I see in the chat room Alicia is using Earthquake, so it is a physical Groudon, which means Yveltal could potentially get the knockout. However, Kangaskhan on the field is putting a lot of pressure. Could do a lot of damage, although Yveltal could survive some hits there. Kangaskhan obviously has fake out pressure, so it could fake out either one of these Pokemon. As Kyle seems to play it safe, he's just gonna go for the Protect. As the fake out goes into the Groudon, wow! And Groudon uses Fire Punch. Alicia's Groudon, is that gonna knock out? I believe it won't. Okay, so it does get burned, but Yveltal reveals Dark Pulse, and oh my God, is that gonna knock out? A critical hit. I'm not sure if that really mattered.
I don't think it did.
I don't think it did either. Oh, it's a Life Orb variant, so that definitely didn't matter. The burn might have hurt it a little bit, which means if Yveltal has one more turn on the field. But Kangaskhan can do anything. It could come back pretty easily. Alicia does still have Tailwind up on the field, so it's going to go first, no matter what. And Yveltal is going to not survive. It's not going to stay around for another turn, unless it has Roost. So basically Alicia has to bank on knocking out the Groudon this turn. And it has returned. Groudon is very physically defensive, so I'm pretty sure it's going to take that. Oh, wow. Oh, and Yveltal goes for the Oblivion Wing, so it's gonna heal a lot of health. That's going to do a lot of damage. That is about half. As Yveltal can stay in the field for another turn or two, but it looks like Groudon's going to go for the Fire Punch, and that should knock out the Kangaskhan. Wow. Wow, even though Alicia got the Tailwind up and had her Pokemon, and her Pokemon were faster, Kyle was able to pull it through with really defensive Pokemon. We saw Yveltal survive a great hit from Fire Punch, knocking out the opposing Groudon, and he pretty much predicted that fake out by protecting his Groudon. I mean, if the fake out went into Yveltal, then this could have gotten a different way. But that was a good play by him. So what are your thoughts on that match?
I thought it was very interesting. I really like Yveltal for Sucker Punch. Obviously with Dark Aura, all the Dark moves are boosted by 30%, is that correct? 30% with the Aura?
I believe so.
Yeah, and I mean, even with the burn, it just does so much damage, and especially Oblivion Wing being able to heal back 75% was really what was able to allow that Yveltal to, even if that last turn, if Alicia had been able to KO Kyle's Groudon with it's something like a double edge with a crit or something like that, because I don't think even a regular double edge would have KO'd, but
it was probably a little bit close.
Pretty close,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I think it would have hung on with a sliver of health. Then I think that Oblivion Wing would have been able to allow Kyle to wrap it up the next turn.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah, so it was a really good ending to the match.
Yes.
Even though Alicia had that tailwind, like you said, it just looked like Kyle had all the momentum that was required for wrapping that game up properly.
And what a really interesting moveset Alicia had was Earthquake and Fire Punch. In my experience of testing on the ladder, I don't really see Earthquake that often because Groudon has a move called Precipice Blades, which is basically like Earthquake, but it doesn't hit your own partner. So more people opt to use that. So that was pretty interesting that she had used that.
Another thing about Earthquake that she might have been thinking about was she didn't really want to risk all the Precipice Blades missing. Precipice Blades does have 85% accuracy, so especially with being a spread move, it has even lower percent to hit each Pokemon. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
So opting to go for the more surefire move that is going to hit, but obviously that it's a spread move that is going to attack her own Pokemon as well.
Right.
I didn't see. Did Alicia have anything like a Dialga or Palkia? Those are Pokemon that do hold telepathy, and those are some really interesting teammates that could do some damage with an Earthquake Groudon. I think in this format this year.
Yeah, I got in like a little bit towards late game.
Yeah.
The only Pokemon I did see on Alicia's side was Crobat, which is actually a pretty interesting mon. I mean, this Pokemon was pretty much non-existent last format. As I mean, here we've seen a surplus of Crobat. Even I'm using Crobat today. It's a lot.
Spoiler.
I just faced a Crobat, so that's already 3 Crobats in this tournament.
Yeah, I believe I played 2 Crobats as well.
Oh, you just played 2 Crobats.
Yes.
Wow. So that's a pretty underdog mon that's risen up in VGC 16.
Another thing I want to bring back with talking about that Primal Groudon is that Earthquake means that it's going to be a more physical Groudon, and although Groudon does have a lot of physical attack, I don't think physical Groudon is going to be extremely prevalent this year, especially because of things like Landorus with Intimidate is going to be a pretty decent counter to something like Groudon, as well as I think the second most prevalent Mega Pokemon is going to be Salamence as well. So Salamence does usually opt to have Intimidate. So we see Mawile as the third most. All Pokemon that have Intimidate and things that are going to be stunting a physical type Groudon. So I've seen people opt to run for that Earth Power that does pick up a one-hit KO on Pokemon on opposing Groudon as well. So that's just something I wanted to bring up with the Earthquake Groudon as well.
Yes, Salamence is the number 2 Mega right now, at least in Showdown statistics. If you guys haven't seen the statistics, take a look. Basically, the top players, you see most of them are using Groudon. That's number 1, right? It's probably around like 65, 67%.
Yeah.
Then we see Kangaskhan. That's number 2, the number 1 Mega right now. But Groudon is really interesting. There are 2 variants, special and physical. It does have more physical attack in that it's about 180 base.
Yeah.
So it does make a lot of use in that. But I am seeing both the physical and special, and that's really cool. I think that's really cool because, and that's probably why I agree why Primal Groudon is the number 1 Mega is because it can go either way. Your opponent can prepare for only so much, but your opponent doesn't know, unless they know you as a player from beforehand, they don't know what kind of Groudon is it. Is it physical? Is it special? So, I mean...
Is it max speed, min speed? There's just so much that a Groudon has to offer, It's got a lot of options within any sort of game. It can be ran on Tailwind teams. It can be ran on min speed Groudon can be ran with Cresselia and have things like gravity to set up its Precipice Blades to hit harder, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It has so much versatility, which is what makes it a great Pokemon. Whereas on the other side, Kyogre really likes to partner with Pokemon like Rayquaza, who has that airlock, or a Licky Licky, or that Golduck that do have what is it? It's airlock. They don't have airlock as well. What's the other type? It's
Good question. Cloud9. I think it's Cloud9.
Cloud9, that's right. So, taking away Groudon's fire or water immunity because it removes drought, and then being able to pick up a one-hit KO from like a Golduck with a Scald.
That's a really
incredible.
good point. That's a really good point.
Yeah.
And we see things like the Licky Licky and the Golduck, like all this weather like that was non-existent last format that is now basically the reason to support these top 2 primals. I mean, basically the primals it's what's going to revolve around this metagame. Primal Groudon, Primal Kyogre. It's going to be really, really hard to do well in this format without one of the 2. I mean, you got to be playing your ass off if you don't have one of those 2 on your team. And it's just because the weather, these primal weathers, are so dominating. It makes every other weather non-existent. You don't see Charizard Y anymore. You don't see Abomasnow. You don't see Tyranitar. Tyranitar was a very good mon.
Although you have seen Tyranitar, it does help to thwart off things like Focus Sash, Smeargle, and things like that. It's still very weak, and you don't see it at the top of the showdown ladder anymore.
Yeah, I don't really see Tyranitar anymore. But there was a tournament earlier on in the year, I believe it was February, where one of the, it was either number 2 or number 3 players had actually a Tyranitar on their team.
Mega-T-Tar.
It was a Mega-T-Tar with Yveltal. And so, like we were talking about earlier, how Yveltal's ability powers up all Dark-type moves on the field, it was able to do so with Tyranitar being a Dark-type. But that was just one tournament. Honestly, like,
yeah, I mean,
don't
it
really
was
see
very
Tyranitar.
early. I mean, that was one tournament. We had no former play before that to pull any information from besides 2010. So no, I totally agree.
Yeah.
And obviously, the further the format develops, it'll nix things out like probably Tyranitar. But
yeah, definitely. I'm sure Tyranitar is going to be non-existent this year. Unfortunately, it's been very good every other year.
it could find a niche role if Ho-Oh's. I mean, obviously you played against a Ho-Oh. If it seems to, if it pulls itself out of the dirt, I mean, it obviously doesn't seem like one of the most optimal Pokemon. But if you use it properly, Rock Slides could be a pretty big deal. I mean, Rock Slide always seems to find its way at the end of make its way through the rough at the end of the format. You know what I'm saying?
That is true.
I mean,
Rock Slide is a very good move. I believe it's one of the top moves. I mean, I haven't seen it much this year, but Rock Slide is very, very good, and it does damage to both your opponent's Pokemon.
If you would have had Rock Slide on your Groudon, you would have done much better against that Ho-Oh.
I would have. And that's one of the things I was testing when I first was introduced to this metagame, was a physical Groudon with Precipice Blades and Rock Slide, and I think I had overeat on that because I was trying to run a Trick Room team. But I didn't see much use for Rock Slide other than, I mean, Ho-Oh.
Sure,
I rarely see Ho-Oh. I do see. I know John Hugh used it to win a Premier Challenge over in New York.
Round 3.
Okay.